Hello, this is Flurry Moon. Welcome back to my channel. Today, we will be taking a dive into the world of wholesome media controversies. These are a few times the cute and, quote, wholesome parts of the media got their share of backlash and drama. We'll be taking a look at scandals from Animal Crossing to Hello Kitty to Sailor Moon, so I hope you all enjoy, and please let me know what you think, and if I missed any important details or got anything wrong, let me know. Let's get into it. Also, huge thanks to the subreddit Hobby Drama. They talked about the Hello Kitty situation, and I got a lot of my information and inspiration from that. So go check out that subreddit. Hello Kitty McDonald's riot. If I had a nickel for every time Hello Kitty McDonald's toys have caused Singapore civilians to riot, I'd have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. In the year 2000, Sanrio teamed up with McDonald's to release limited edition Hello Kitty and Dear Daniel plush sets, where Hello Kitty and her boyfriend, Daniel, are seen to be wearing traditional wedding costumes. There were 6 different versions of the couple, all wearing different sets of wedding attire. These toys sparked pandemonium because not only were they toys, they were considered collectibles, which means these plushies could be sold for a high price. This release caused chaos. Bitches went feral. I'm not kidding. At the height of the craze, 300,000 people packed into the 114 McDonald's restaurants across Singapore. We're not just talking about kids and teenage girls. Everyone, adults, elderly, children, all were in attendance, and naturally, fights broke out. A quote from the Wall Street Journal: "Fistfights broke out while frustrated patrons threatened store managers, damaged restaurant property, and compelled the fast food outlets to hire private security firms to police crowds." At one outlet, at least 7 people were injured after a glass door they were leaning on shattered. 3 people ended up in the hospital during the frenzy and were later thankfully discharged. Deputy Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong said, quote, "We should not get too carried away. Even if you want the kitty, there is no need to fight fiercely to try and get one," unquote. This poor man. You guys, it was wild. Another interesting and unexpected fact of this story is due to the hours and hours these people stood in line, they wanted to get their money's worth. This resulted in citizens eating nothing but McDonald's for like a week or 2 straight. It only made sense that people who stood in line for 3 hours would get a ton of food for their families to get their time and money's worth. Things started to calm down after everyone who ordered the meal received a coupon that could be exchanged for the Hello Kitty and Dear Daniel toys in July of 2000. This is where the story ends. Or does it? You guys, it happened again. In 2013, McDonald's released 6 different versions of the doll inspired by fairy tales in celebration of the Hello Kitty 40th anniversary. The collection included a limited time singing bone kitty, which is so cool and adorable. I want one. This time, McDonald's came more prepared and learned their lesson 13 years since the first Hello Kitty craze. They made 40% more kitties. It's so funny to say, and reduced the number of toys down to 4 per customer. They were more informed this time, but you can't keep people from going ballistic over a stuffed cat toy. McDonald's received tons of backlash for the low stock, and once again, fights amongst customers resulted in the police being called. There are tons of footage online showcasing the insane length of lines and the amount of chaos, so I encourage anyone interested to take a look. Animal Crossing Star Tree drama. Since we are playing Animal Crossing, we have to talk about the iconic 2020 Star Tree scandal. So if you're completely over this story, we will be talking about a bunch of other obscure scandals later in the video, but for those who haven't heard this story or would like to hear it again, the Animal Crossing community has always found their ways to be split on issues that most of the time, in my opinion, shouldn't even be issues in the first place. Time traveling has always left fans arguing about how the game was intended to be played in real time, and as the fandom eventually found out, the hairstyles your villager wears can get you doxxed and suspended from Twitter. We're not talking about that today, but let me know if you guys want to hear about that one. The infamous hacked star fragment trees are no exception to this rule. If you played New Horizons when it first came out, you know the vibes. Everyone was in the midst of quarantine and we all had way too much time on our hands. Maybe this is why Animal Crossing New Horizons had so much drama during this time. In May of 2020, pictures of star fragment trees started to circulate online. These trees were particularly special because at the time, you could only get star fragments from wishing on a star during a meteor shower and waking up the next morning to find a few on your island's beach. So how did they end up grown on trees like fruit would in the game? Well, you can only get these trees by hacking your Switch to allow mods. For those who don't know, mod is short for modification. Mods are created by those who play the game as opposed to the actual game developers. These hacked star trees quickly became highly sought after, and honestly, they were beautiful, but they were not something that was built into the game, so they were bound to cause trouble. Some players were all for these star trees because they are so aesthetically pleasing. Animal Crossing New Horizons is a game that is heavily focused on design and creativity, so it makes sense why this mod became so popular within the community. The glow from the star fragments made for a beautiful ambiance and light source, especially for players who had themes for their islands like Fairy Core, which relies quite a bit on glowing lights. Other players felt as though hacking your system was cheating and therefore unacceptable. So arguments amongst the Animal Crossing community went back and forth, eventually fizzling out. That was until update 1.4.0 arrived. This update added the ability to visit dream addresses, previously not present in the game, originating in Animal Crossing New Leaf. This update allowed players to visit other islands online using a dream code, or simply arriving at a random island with the island owner's consent, of course. You could freeze your island in time, only allowing players to access your island to explore without risking the possibility of strangers stealing items and messing with your hard work. Stay with me. This is where the star fragment tree drama makes its inevitable return. With the dream address feature returning, the dream reporting feature entered the chat. This allowed players to report islands they deemed inappropriate, and cheating was a valid enough reason to get these islands banned. The hacking haters had a field day with this new feature, reporting all the islands they found star fragment trees on. One player who practically rallied this group of little tattletales was Verlicify, I don't know how to say his name, a fellow Nintendo YouTuber. He encouraged his fanbase to find islands with hacked trees on Twitter, reporting any they could find. This resulted in many players being banned and suspended over their star trees. Finally, Nintendo released a patch not long after the controversy, taking the star fragment trees away. If you had them on your island, they would be replaced by money trees, so at least they were compensated, I guess. Anyway, Fox News anchor versus Littlest Pet Shop. If you know me, you know I love Littlest Pet Shop, so of course I had to include this story. For those who are unaware, Littlest Pet Shop is a toy franchise that includes all different types of animals in the form of small, big-eyed bobbleheads with sometimes whimsical designs and expressions. The toys were first produced by Kenner in the early 90s, then were relaunched in 2005, being reworked into the pets we know and love today. The variety of toys is one of the reasons they have resonated with so many kids and adult collectors throughout the years. We've seen natural colors on semi-realistic animals to more experimental design choices in the mid-2010s, and then back to their roots in 2024, now under license with Basic Fun. But what happens when one of these plastic animals finds itself in the center of a lawsuit? In 2014, a set of pets was released with both toys having first and last names. I wasn't a fan of the franchise at this point, I had since grown out of the toys, so I'm still not sure why these pets were given names, as that's not something I ever remember the brand doing. Nevertheless, the set included a dog named Benson Detweiler, who was actually shown in the Littlest Pet Shop 2012 TV series, and the Woman of the Hour, a hamster named Harris Faulkner. This yellow rodent had big blue eyes with intense, bold eyelashes and a blue butterfly on her head. There was nothing necessarily wrong with this toy besides the fact that Harris Faulkner is a woman who exists already and is a Fox News anchor. Or is she still? I don't know, you guys. Our girl Harris was not having any of this and took much offense to this hamster with her name. She took so much offense that in 2015, she sued Hasbro and was seeking $5 million in damages. This is so funny. She had claimed that the toy had, quote, caused substantial commercial and emotional damage, unquote, and she did not want anyone to think she had anything to do with the toy line. The lawsuit also states that there are parts of the hamster that, quote, bear a physical resemblance to Faulkner's traditional professional appearance, in particular tone of its complexion, the shape of its eyes, and the design of its eye makeup, unquote. This is where she lost me because I'm confused on how this hamster is supposed to look like her at all, but the longer I'm looking at it, okay, I kind of see it. On the opposing side, Hasbro argued that their toy looks nothing like Faulkner, and the hamster simply having the same name just wasn't enough evidence for a publicity rights claim. In 2016, Hasbro and Faulkner came to an agreement to dismiss the case, and things were settled amicably between both parties. But sadly, the Harris Faulkner plastic hamster was taken off shelves and stopped being sold. Justice for Harris the hamster. Stardew Valley encourages guinea pig abuse. Stardew Valley is another cozy farming game that is filled with dark and unsettling moments that make you question if you are actually playing a wholesome life sim. These attributes are arguably what makes the game so charming and full of life, from villagers who deal with very real problems like depression and alcoholism, to rather bizarre scandals like an alleged secret affair with a wizard resulting in his child possibly being one of the villagers, to actually having the ability to, quote, get rid of your children by turning them into doves and setting them free? Yeah, there's a lot more to this game than meets the eye. But even with those dark Easter eggs to find in the game, the worst one to date is a villager only having one guinea pig. Once again, let me explain. In Stardew, if you enter a villager by the name of Abigail's room, you will see what seems to be a clear tank with a hamster wheel in it, and Abigail occasionally refers to her guinea pig, David. This is a pretty small detail in the game, but players took note of it. On July 4th, 2017, a Reddit user by the name of Buffy_B made a post directed at the creator of Stardew Valley entitled, quote, "Dear Concerned Ape, Responsible Pet Ownership. Hi, Concerned Ape. I love playing your video game. I've been playing since it came out. This time around on my new farm, I decided to woo Abigail. To my disappointment, Abigail is practicing some very irresponsible pet ownership. I have 3 rescue guinea pigs, and there are 3 things Abigail is doing very wrong with her pet David. Since there are so many people playing you game, I was hoping you could correct this to better educate people about guinea pigs. 1. Guinea pigs are herd animals. They should not be alone. In fact, in some countries, it's considered so cruel to have a lone guinea pig that it's illegal to buy just one without having a friend for it. Having a lone guinea pig will decrease its lifespan. 2. Guinea pigs should never, ever have a wheel in its cage. Wheels can damage their spines and kill them. They are not like hamsters. Instead, they should have large cages that they can run around and also get supervised floor time so they can run around and play with each other. 3. Piggies should have CNC cages, not aquariums. There isn't proper ventilation for them to breathe. Needless to say, this post went somewhat viral within the Stardew subreddit and was naturally met with mixed reactions. Some people agreed with Buffy B, relating it to the fact that even if you don't fill your dog or cat's water bowl in the game, there are no real consequences, and maybe there should be. Others simply didn't see the problem with the treatment of the guinea pig. It's a game after all, and there are so much more unrealistic aspects of Stardew Valley. If you get your pet advice from a game, you probably shouldn't own that pet. Please don't spend time on this, Concerned Ape. This is a game, not an educational experience. I love gardening in real life, and let me tell you that there is nothing realistic about gardening in this game. I'm 100% fine with that. Although OP probably didn't mean any harm from this post and seemingly only wanted to spread awareness, it definitely comes off as nitpicky and honestly kind of obnoxious. The creator of Stardew Valley is only one man after all, and most players thought he shouldn't waste his time on something so trivial. Stardew Valley creator. I certainly don't want my game to cause harm to any guinea pigs. So, Concerned Ape saw the debate and actually took note of the concerns. He states, quote, "I was a bit surprised when I first saw it because it's not something that had ever crossed my mind before," unquote. And, quote, "Originally I was going to have Abigail own a hamster, but then I thought to myself, hamsters seem kind of trendy right now. Maybe I should do something different like a guinea pig," unquote. Concerned Ape seemed unsure of whether or not he would like to make a change, but eventually included in the 1.4 update, David the guinea pig's cage was upgraded and therefore giving the people, or just Buffy B, what they wanted. Sailor Moon censorship in America. Lesbian cousins? Question mark? For our last and longest entry, we will be talking about the iconic anime Sailor Moon. This show practically paved the way for magical girl anime and was one of the first to show that girls can be badass without erasing their femininity. The show became so popular that it was one of the first anime to be popularized in the US during the anime boom that occurred in the 90s. But when Sailor Moon was sent over to America to be dubbed and released in 1995, DIC Entertainment decided some tweaking was inevitable to make the show more suitable to American audiences. This included changing any lines referring to death, any implications of sexual matters, and, as we'll go over later, same-sex relationships and openly queer characters. You might be thinking, it's a kids' show, why would there be sexual references? But Japan is very different to the US and tend to let a lot more innuendos slide in kids' TV. Some examples of the censorship in the US include bloody scenes being modified with green goo instead of dark red blood, Americanized name changes like Usagi to Serena, the Sailor Senshi, which translates to Sailor Soldiers, becoming the Sailor Scouts, and much, much more. So much more, in fact, that whole episodes were heavily modified and even cut completely, not airing in America. The Sailor Senshi A Tragic Battle, the two-part special released in Japan on February 20th, 1993, was aired as only one part in the US. This is due to the dark scenes and storylines being removed and watered down and was carefully renamed Day of Destiny. Again, since America likes to remove anything implying death from kids' TV, there was not much to work with after removing it all. This is because in this episode, the girls fight Queen Beryl and her minions, the Doom and Gloom girls. In the Japanese version, the Sailor Scouts actually are killed and then revived. Although they do come back to life, each girl is shown dying painfully one by one, and it's pretty dark for a kids' show. This storyline was entirely scrapped from the American version, simply having the villagers state the girls were, quote, kidnapped, and no shots of death were aired. The creator of Sailor Moon, Naoko Takeuchi, was firm on her stance of how she wanted her story to be, and that story included same-sex relationship. While it's debatable if same-sex relationships were more accepted in Japan versus the US during the late 90s, Japan was definitely more open to gay characters being portrayed in the media at the time. Whether this was in a mocking way or a celebrating way, that is also up for debate, unfortunately. Either way, the DIC dub's ways of working around these characters' identities were interesting to say the least. Queen Beryl, the main villain of the first season, has several minions doing her dirty work in order to steal all human energy in the silver crystal. One of her helpers, a man named Kunzite, is heavily implied to be in a romantic relationship with another male warrior under Queen Beryl's command, Zoisite. In the US version, however, Zoisite is portrayed to be a female, making her and Kunzite's relationship heterosexual. They even went as far as giving this character a female voice actor, and if you didn't know Zoisite was a man in the original version, you'd simply never know. If you thought that was bad, strap in for this next one. 2 new Sailor Guardians were introduced in the third arc of the anime in March of 1994, named Sailor Neptune and Sailor Uranus. In the Japanese anime, these 2 teen girls were in a romantic relationship with one another and became fan favorites, especially over the years. Once again, this relationship was altered when aired elsewhere. In most countries, the relationship was kept romantic, but similarly to Zoisite, Sailor Uranus was changed to a male character. This confused viewers though, because Uranus still wears the feminine Guardian uniform, which makes me laugh because that means they were unintentionally still being inclusive by having a male character in a skirt. However, in the US release, Sailor Neptune and Uranus are portrayed as cousins. Yes, cousins. This gets even weirder when you realize that none of the dialogue or scenes are changed, so it just seems like these cousins are romantically involved with each other. I don't know who thought this was a good idea or how this is better than just having a lesbian couple in a few scenes, but it's pretty uncomfortable to watch if you are under the impression these characters are related. Another villain, Fisheye, was changed from biologically male in the original to biologically female in other countries due to his feminine attire. This, although, is confusing when Fisheye takes off his shirt in one of the episodes, revealing his male body. The US version cuts up this scene so you can't see his chest, trying to keep their illusion that this character is indeed female, but doesn't that just imply a woman took off her top and revealed her exposed chest for all the characters to see? Like, it just doesn't work, you know? Although these examples of censorship are unfortunate, there were a few US versions that, in my opinion, weren't bad ideas. In the 4th episode of the series, Usagi desperately tries to lose weight after gaining a few pounds. The Japanese version goes overboard on the fat phobia, while the American release changed some dialogue to encourage Usagi, and therefore viewers, not to starve herself and to just make more healthy eating habits. In a few scenes of the original series, some of the girls are shown shown to be nearly nude, whether they're in the bathtub or in a transformation scene that outlines their bodies. The US version uses methods to cover up their bodies, which, with them being very young teens, a lot of viewers saw that as an appropriate decision. The US also altered an episode where Usagi gets drunk, instead making her feel sick from drinking too much non-alcoholic punch. In this episode, she also gets kissed by Tuxedo Mask for the first time while she's inebriated, but in the US version, that scene is shown as a dream sequence. That's about it for this week's video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and make sure to like and subscribe and comment below if you'd like to see a part 2 of Wholesome Media Controversies or anything else. I'll see you next week. Bye!